Hi, I'm Jose, and welcome to the Data Hunter, where we find data that is useful and reliable. Today, we will be talking about where to find data on the General Government Debt-to-GDP Ratio of various countries. Government debt has recently been in the news as tax revenues are falling due to the economic slowdown caused by COVID-19, coupled with significant expenses associated with the country's COVID-19 response. But before we proceed, let us have a brief preview on what is the General Government Debt-to-GDP Ratio. First, what is the General Government? The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, describes the general government as an entity that consists of central, state, and local governments and the social security funds controlled by those units. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank also published this diagram in a report dated January 2020. General Government Debt-to-GDP Ratio, on the other hand, is defined by the OECD as the measure of the gross debt of the general government as a percentage of GDP. It could be misleading to quote the government's outright debt on its own. Rather, it would make more sense if compared against the size of the country's economy. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, has in its website a colorful world map as of 2018 displaying its available data on the general government debt-to-GDP ratios of certain countries. To get there, you may click the link in the description below, or we go through the IMF website at www.imf.org. Then we scroll down to the IMF data mapper and click on the Global Debt Database. We scroll down again to Public Debt, and then we click on General Government Debt. Here, we can finally see the colorful map that we were talking about earlier. We have the Philippines with a ratio of 38.92, the United States at 106.91, and Japan at 237.13. These are all as of 2018 according to the IMF. This ratio, the General Government Debt-to-GDP Ratio, rises when the fiscal deficit is wide and unaccompanied by a proportionate level of economic expansion. And the higher your ratio is, the higher the burden of repaying your debt becomes. Now, you may just explore the map to check the debt-to-GDP ratios of the other countries. And there you have it, the General Government Debt-to-GDP ratios from the International Monetary Fund. Thank you and happy data hunting.